everyone. Good morning. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Maybe some of you celebrated 16 de septiembre, El Grito de la Independencia. I remember when I was in Puebla studying for a year, and I had such a great time. We all went to the plaza, actually of Cholula, Puebla, and there was a big fair. We celebrated with El Grito, so such wonderful memories, and I hope you had a nice time as well, however you spent it this weekend. So this week we're starting with style of speech, and it is so interesting to think about the way that we talk and how that influences the message that comes across. We can think of just one word, nice, for example. We could say nice or nice, right? So lots of things, facial expressions, tone of voice goes into creating very, very different messages from the same exact word. Another thing that's touched on in this chapter, which is very interesting, is politeness and politeness strategies. A lot of times when we go to different places, different parts of the country, even different countries, or in contact with different cultures, we can recognize different styles of politeness. I saw this when I lived in Brazil, and so they have different patterns of doing things. So you can know the different language, but yet there can be these misunderstandings, or there's these very slight cultural ways of speaking that you need to pick up, these pragmatic differences as they're called. So I realized that when leaving someone's house, when you've been visiting them, they often said, desculpe alguma coisa, sorry for anything. And this is very interesting to me. I'm like, why would you be sorry? Thank you so much. But it's just their way of saying, I hope everything was perfect for you, and I'm sorry if anything was not perfect or not the way that you wanted to. It's just a politeness strategy that many people don't even think about it, right? So it talks about this, the phatic communication as communication that you don't think about it because it's just a message that's ingrained in our routines and our ways of being polite, or our ways of speaking. Another example was I would make something for people, and I'd say, do you want this? And I, ask them a couple times, but then I'd be like, okay, you don't need to try it, that's fine. Whereas a friend of mine said, brasileiro insiste. Brazilians insist. You have to insist many times before they'll take it. And so it ended up just being a little bit more than I was used to insisting. And when leaving someone's house, leaving a party, they'd say, no vai, tá cedo. Okay, don't go, it's early. Okay, so just the different patterns and the different ways of these politeness strategies. And so as part of our discussion board this week, I really look forward to hearing your examples and what you've picked up on and noticed. Now, on the other hand, foreigners coming to the U.S. are often very exasperated by the fact that all these people are asking them, hi, how are you? And they start to answer, and by the time they answer, the person has already disappeared and walked straight by them. All right? Because that how are you most often isn't meant to really mean how are you, right? It's not to give a long answer. It's just to say hi, okay? But that hi, how are you? And you just respond good even on a bad day most times, right? Unless it's someone you're really familiar with, or you have more time, you've both stopped and you're facing each other, so you can think about that, the way that works, that hi, how are you, as part of this emphatic communication. It's also happened to me in the grocery store, or just in these interactions where I was so much expecting the person to say, how are you, that I just said good, and maybe that wasn't what they said to me. They said, have a nice day or something. So that's an interesting example of the same sort of process happening there. And students sometimes mention to me, okay, what's the difference between speech style and dialect? And as Chaika points out, uh, style is minor variation, dialect is somewhat more variation, and language is the most variation. So there's, a little bit of variety in terms of how much, but it's not a clear cut drawn line that we can say. Style very much can blend into dialect, and it's an interesting factor, although politeness tends to be talked about somewhat more in terms of style features. So this week, you have your quiz, your discussion board topics, as well as an assignment. And for this assignment, you will be observing two different situations. So it could be home, school, work, party, church, synagogue, wherever it may be, in the park, grocery store, shopping, wherever you can think of a situation where there will be people and interactions going on, and you'll observe the differences and analyze these situations according to the different terms that we talked about in the chapter. So as always, let me know if you have any questions. I will be uploading the chapter, but this will be the last one due to copyright infringement policies and everything. You really do need to have a book for this course. I think most of you have it. A couple of you have said that you're having some trouble getting it. It's still on order and it's coming soon. So that's great. And then you'll move on to using your books instead of the scan copy, because this will be the last week. Okay, so that's everything I had to mention briefly to you this morning. I'm looking forward so much to reading your research proposals. I'm excited about the ideas I've talked to some of you about. And as always, let me know if you have any questions. Bye.